We all make mistakes. The important thing is we found our way back to each other.
I still hear the sound of that room going quiet, not loud quiet, not dramatic, the kind where the air tightens and everybody suddenly remembers how to breathe real slow. 1 minute there was music, soft laughter, glasses clinking. Folks smiling like their faces hurt from holding it too long. Next minute, silence. And me, standing there in a navy blue dress I almost didn't buy, wondering how a single sentence could split a whole life clean down the middle. I wasn't supposed to be the center of attention that night. I was just the mama, the background character, the woman who raised him, paid her way quietly and stayed out of grown folks' business. That's what I thought. Then she laughed. Not nervous laughter, not awkward laughter, mean laughter. And when she spoke, she didn't whisper, didn't hesitate, didn't check the room. She lifted her glass, tilted her chin, and said something so sharp it felt like it scraped bone on the way out. I won't repeat the words, they weren't clever, they weren't funny, they were meant to embarrass, and they did. I felt every eye swing toward me like I was suddenly a stain folks didn't know how to look at politely. My hands went cold first. Then my chest, like my body was trying to shut down in stages. I looked for my son. That instinct never leaves you, no matter how old they get. He was standing a few feet away, same tall frame he got from his daddy. Same habit of staring at the floor when things got uncomfortable. He didn't look up, not at me, not at her, just the floor. That's when something inside me shifted, not broke, shifted. Like furniture being moved in a room you've lived in your whole life, suddenly changing how everything feels. I realized something in that moment. They didn't know me, not really. They saw what I allowed them to see, a quiet woman. A simple mother, a background presence, and I had helped build that illusion. Because for years I thought love meant staying small so your child could feel big. I thought support meant silence. I thought sacrifice meant invisibility. Standing there, heat creeping up my neck while polite smiles froze on strangers' faces, I understood how wrong I'd been. That night wasn't the beginning of my pain. It was the end of my pretending. But to understand how I got there, how a celebration turned into a reckoning, you gotta know where I came from and who I really am. So let me take you back. I wasn't always this woman who knew how to stand still in a storm. There was a time I shook easy. My name is Loretta Me Johnson, and I've lived most of my life in the same stretch of South Georgia red clay where folks wave even when they don't like you and church parking lots tell more truth than people's mouths ever will. I met my husband, Calvin, when I was 21 and thought love was supposed to hurt a little. He had a laugh that filled rooms and hands that always stayed warm, even in winter. We built a life the slow way, one paycheck, one grocery list, one promise at a time. Then sickness came, quiet, ruthless. And just like that, I was a widow at 38 with a 12-year-old son who still slept with the hall light on. That boy became my whole world. I worked 2 jobs at first, days at the county office, nights doing bookkeeping for a man who owned 3 rundown apartment buildings and never remembered my name. I learned numbers because numbers didn't lie. They told you exactly where you stood. Somewhere along the way, I got good at it, real good. I stopped working for people and started fixing what they broke. Bad leases, poor management. Folks who didn't know how to keep money from leaking out their own hands. I didn't talk about it much. Didn't dress like money, didn't announce wins, I just handled business. And my son Malik grew up watching me do everything without ever seeing how heavy it was. That part was my fault. I made sure the fridge stayed full, lights stayed on, tuition got paid, sneakers stayed fresh. I never told him no if I could figure out a yes. I thought that was love, but what I was really teaching him was this: Mama will always catch you, no matter how careless you fall. When Malik left for college, folks praised me for doing it all. Strong black woman, independent, resilient. They didn't see the exhaustion. They didn't see how quiet the house felt without his sneakers by the door. Or how many times I sat at the kitchen table wondering if I'd loved him too hard in the wrong direction. Then he met Ariana. She was polished, city smooth, came from money that didn't talk loud but moved rooms when it entered. Her family didn't struggle they expected, and Malik changed. His voice got careful when he talked about me, like he was translating something embarrassing into something acceptable. That should have been my first warning. But when he told me they were getting married, I cried happy tears and opened my checkbook without asking questions. Because mamas do that, or at least I thought they did. The wedding planning didn't feel like planning. It felt like instructions. Ariana's people had a vision and everybody else just needed to stay in their lane. Colors chosen before I was asked. Seating arranged before I was informed. Decisions made in rooms I was never invited into. I didn't push back. I told myself it wasn't my place. When Malik asked, real hesitant, if I could help cover some things, I didn't even ask how much. I just said yes and figured it out later. That yes cost more than money. It cost dignity I didn't realize I was handing over. By the time the day came, I had paid for flowers I never touched, food I barely tasted, and music that felt like it belonged to somebody else's joy. Still, I showed up, hair pressed, nails clean, back straight, because no matter how small folks tried to make me feel, I wasn't going to embarrass my child. And then came that moment, that laugh, that sentence. The one that made the room go still. Standing there, I finally understood something I hadn't wanted to admit. My silence had taught them I didn't deserve a voice. I had made myself easy to overlook, easy to minimize, easy to disrespect. And the truth, I wasn't hurt because she said what she said. I was hurt because she felt safe saying it, because she believed, truly believed, nothing would happen next. But she was wrong. What none of them knew, what I had never bothered correcting, was that the quiet woman they dismissed had been making moves for years. Moves that were about to turn their world upside down. I didn't raise my voice that night, didn't cry. Didn't defend myself, I just smiled politely and let the moment pass. Because sometimes the strongest response isn't immediate. Sometimes you let people finish showing you exactly who they are before you show them who you've been all along. And trust me, they were about to find out. The days after the wedding felt slow and loud at the same time. Slow because everything familiar had cracked, loud because my mind wouldn't shut up. I replayed that moment more than I care to admit, not her words exactly, but my son's silence. That stayed with me, followed me from room to room like an unfinished conversation. Malik didn't call for 3 days. That alone told me plenty. On the 4th day, he showed up at my house unannounced. Same house he grew up in, same steps he used to sit on when he was mad at the world. He didn't sit this time, he paced. "Mom," he said, rubbing his face, "things got misunderstood at the reception." I leaned against the counter and waited. Years in business taught me silence makes people talk sloppy. "Ariana didn't mean it like that," he continued. "Her family joke's different. You know how people are when they've had too much to drink." I nodded slowly. "So," I asked, calm as lake water, "what did she mean it like?" He stopped pacing. "That's not fair," he said. "You're taking it personal," I laughed once. "Short, sharp, baby," I said. She pointed at me. He sighed, frustration creeping into his voice. "Why can't you just let it go? This is already causing problems." There it was. Not she caused problems, I was the problem for not swallowing it quiet. That night after he left, I sat alone at my kitchen table and pulled out folders I hadn't touched in months. Not wedding receipts, not feelings, contracts. Numbers, truth, because while they were planning centerpieces and guest lists, I'd been finalizing something else entirely. Something that had nothing to do with marriage and everything to do with leverage. And once I reminded myself of that, the hurt started to turn into something else. Clarity. See, what most people don't understand about quiet folks is we don't move slow, we move silent. Years ago, when I stopped working for other people, I didn't chase attention. I chased stability, small commercial properties, ugly buildings with good bones, businesses folks ignored because they weren't flashy enough. I fixed them. Then I expanded. I learned who owed who borrowed too much, who smiled at charity events while bleeding money behind the scenes. Ariana's family, they were bleeding. They didn't know it yet, but I did. Their company sat on valuable land, but the books were messy. Loans stacked on loans. Pride holding everything together with duct tape and last names, and quietly, patiently I'd been buying interest, small pieces, nothing that rang bells. Until suddenly it wasn't small anymore. I hadn't planned for the truth to come out at a wedding. Life did that part for me. 2 mornings after Malik's visit, my phone rang, a number I recognized but hadn't saved. I answered. "Miss Johnson," a man said, voice tight, "this is Harold King. We need to speak immediately." I smiled to myself. "Yes," I said, "we do." The meeting was scheduled for Monday morning, downtown, glass walls, long table. The kind of room where people usually talked at me instead of to me. Not this time. When I walked in, conversations stopped. Chairs shifted. Eyes followed. Recognition hit one face harder than the others, Ariana's father. He looked like a man who just realized the ground under him wasn't solid anymore. "Miss Johnson," he said, standing halfway out of his chair. I didn't realize." I held up a hand. "Let's keep this professional," I said, taking my seat. "We've got work to do." That meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end of it, titles changed, roles adjusted, futures rewritten. Nobody laughed, nobody joked. And nobody looked at me like background noise anymore. When I walked out of that building, the weight I'd been carrying for decades finally shifted off my shoulders. Not because I'd won something, but because I had stopped shrinking. That evening, Malik called, his voice shook. "Mom," he said, "what did you do?" I looked out my window at the quiet street I'd lived on half my life and answered honestly. "I stopped pretending," I said, "and that was just the beginning." Malik came by that night with his shoulders tight and his pride louder than his sense. He didn't knock, just walked in like he always used to, like nothing had changed, but everything had. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, standing in my living room like a stranger wearing my son's face. I kept folding laundry, slow, careful. "Tell you what," I said, "that you had money like that. That you were this." He waved his hand like he didn't even know what this meant. I set the towel down and finally looked at him. "Because you never asked," I said, "and because I raised you to stand on your own, not lean on what I built." His jaw tightened. "You made me look stupid." I shook my head. "No, baby, you did that all by yourself." That's when it came out, the resentment, the embarrassment, how he felt small around Ariana's family. How he'd downplayed me so he could feel bigger. How he'd let her believe things that weren't true because correcting her would have meant admitting how much he still needed me. "I didn't think she'd ever talk to you like that," he said quietly. I sighed. "You didn't stop it either." That landed. He left not long after, anger dragging behind him like a shadow. I didn't chase him. For the first time in his life, I let him walk away with his feelings untouched. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The fallout didn't take long. Calls started coming in from people who had smiled too wide at the wedding. Invitations turned into apologies. Misunderstandings needed clearing up. Tone changed. Respect appeared out of nowhere. Funny how that works. Ariana showed up one afternoon while I was tending my plants. No heels, no designer bag, just her and a nervous swallow. She didn't sit at first. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Not the polite one, the real one." I waited. She talked about fear, about pride, about believing what Malik told her because it fit the world she understood. About how she'd mistaken silence for weakness. "I thought power looked loud," she said. "I was wrong." I studied her face, saw something genuine there, not perfect, but real. "I don't need your respect because of what I own," I told her. "I needed it because I'm his mother." She nodded. Tears stayed put, but her voice cracked. "I see that now. We didn't hug, we didn't become close, but something shifted. A line got redrawn. Sometimes that's enough." The real consequences came later. Malik struggled, harder than he expected. For the first time, there was no soft landing, no quiet check written, no phone calls smoothing things over. He had to face Ariana without a story to hide behind, had to face himself without excuses. Therapy entered the picture, so did humility. Months passed. We started meeting once a month for dinner, simple food. No tension-filled silence, just truth served plain. He apologized, not the rushed kind, the kind that costs you something to say. "I didn't know how to be proud of you," he admitted, "so I tried to make you smaller." That hurt. But it also healed, because naming a wound gives it a chance to close, and me, I kept living, working, laughing, sleeping easy. I learned that strength doesn't mean enduring everything quietly. It means knowing when to stand up without yelling, without revenge, without shame. Some nights I still think about that room going quiet, and I smile, because silence can mean many things. Sometimes it's the sound of power finally being recognized. 6 months after the wedding, life didn't explode the way people expect it to. After a moment like that, it settled, which in my experience is far more dangerous. The company Ariana's family once ran like a social club was finally being treated like a business. Decisions got made without feelings attached. People who worked hard stayed, people who coasted didn't. Some of them blamed me. I was fine with that. What surprised me was Malik. He didn't quit, didn't ask for favors, didn't hide behind his last name or his marriage. He showed up, early, prepared, humbled. One afternoon, his supervisor stopped by my office and said, "Your son's got good instincts, he just never had to use them before." That sentence hit me harder than any insult ever could, because it was true. I had protected him from needing himself, and now finally he was learning who he actually was. Still, something felt unfinished, like a door left cracked. Then one evening, Ariana called. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the weight in it. "We need to talk," she said, "all of us." I knew what that meant. We met at my house, neutral ground. Ariana came first, then Malik, then last her parents. No grand entrances this time, no confident smiles, just people sitting in my living room unsure of where to put their hands. Her father cleared his throat. "We owe you more than an apology," he said. "We owe you accountability." He talked about pride, about legacy, about confusing entitlement with inheritance. He admitted something I already knew, that without intervention, their business would have collapsed within a few years. "I thought respect came from position," he said. "Turns out it comes from competence." I nodded. "And character." That was the first time he really looked at me, not through money, not through control, just as a woman who had earned her place. Ariana spoke next. About unlearning, about shame, about rebuilding trust without pretending nothing happened. Malik didn't say much. When he did, his voice shook. "I'm still learning how to be a man who doesn't borrow confidence from other people," he said. "But I want to do it right." I believed him, not because of the words, but because of the work I'd already seen. When they left that night, the house felt quiet again, but different from before, peaceful, the kind of quiet that doesn't ache. Healing is boring, nobody tells you that part. There's no music swelling in the background, no big speeches, no moment where everybody claps because growth finally showed up on time. Healing looks like repetition. Malik showing up to work every day and doing the parts nobody sees. Ariana learning to listen instead of perform. Me learning to stay present without stepping in. Some days were better than others. Some days I still caught myself wanting to fix things before they broke. That instinct runs deep in mamas like me, but I'd stop, take a breath, and remind myself this is not my weight to carry anymore. One afternoon, Ariana stopped by with grocery bags instead of apologies. "I thought we could cook together," she said. "If that's okay." We made cornbread and greens. She chopped onions too slow and cried a little. I pretended not to notice. She asked questions. Real ones, about raising a child alone, about loving someone without losing yourself, about how to tell the difference between helping and controlling. I didn't sugarcoat my answers. "I loved my son so much," I told her, "that I forgot to love myself just as hard." She nodded like that meant something she'd been circling for a while. Time kept moving. It always does. The company grew stronger. The people working there smiled more, turnover dropped, respect stopped being performative and started being real. Malik paid his bills on time, learned to sit with discomfort. Learned that confidence doesn't come from comparison, it comes from competence. Our relationship changed. We weren't as close in the way people expect mothers and sons to be, but we were honest, and I'll take honest over close any day. One evening, he hugged me before leaving, really hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for not saving me." That almost broke me, because that was the moment I knew I'd finally done something right. Sometimes I think about that woman I was before, the one who thought love meant silence, the one who shrank herself so others could stand tall, the one who believed endurance was the same thing as strength. I don't miss her, I respect her. She did the best she could with what she knew, but this version of me, this woman who knows when to speak, when to step back, and when to walk away, she's free. That night at the wedding didn't ruin my life, it gave it back to me. So if you're listening to this and you feel small in rooms you helped build, if you've been quiet so long people forgot you had a voice, if someone mistook your grace for weakness, let them. Just don't forget who you are. Because one day the room will go quiet. And this time, it'll be because they finally see you. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever been the one who stayed quiet, paid the price, or made yourself small so others could feel big, then I want you to hear this clearly. You are not invisible, you are not weak, and you are not wrong for wanting respect. Sometimes life waits until we're humiliated, overlooked, or underestimated to remind us who we really are. Sometimes the moment that hurts the most is the one that finally wakes us up. If you felt this story in your chest, don't just scroll past it. Back in medium dark like this video so more people who need this message can find it. Back in Medium Dark, subscribe if you want more real, emotional stories about family, boundaries, healing, and quiet strength. Back in Medium Dark, leave a comment, even one word, so I know you were here. And if you know someone who's been carrying too much in silence, share this with them. You never know which story might help someone stand up for themselves without yelling, without revenge, just truth. I'll see you in the next one.